Hello, this is Crystal Watson. This week we are talking about our concept of interest. Mine is communication and how we are critiquing and reflecting upon that concept of interest. Why did I choose communication? I feel that communication is the number one tool used by nurses. We do it every day. Not only do we verbalize communication, it is our actions. I think that communication defines who you are. I think that communication is very situational. Every patient I talk to differently, and that's just based off their needs. I also think that communication is evolving. We always tend to build upon our communication skills. If we find a skill that doesn't work, then maybe we can incorporate other skills and constantly just build on those positive communication techniques that we have. Effective communication is essential for both individual and team success. It helps reduce misunderstandings. I take this example. Patients sometimes are confused or don't understand what doctors say. So when we come in the room, they're like, he said this, but I don't know what's going on. So the nurse takes over. We communicate with them about what's plan is after they have a procedure, what will happen next, kind of smooth that communication barrier, which also develops strong relationships with the patient and the nurse. I think that communication establishes yourself as an active team member. Are you involved in that floor council? Are you involved in committees? Do you communicate your needs, wants, and desires at work to your manager or in monthly meetings? Learning to communicate effectively requires time and practice. This is not something that someone just does perfectly. Like I said, it's evolving. So if you do have a communication skill you thought that worked and it doesn't, then you reevaluate it. It is also important to understand that it's not just what we say, it's how we say it. And there again, that can vary with the situation. Communication helps organizations reach objectives. My organization is big on hand hygiene. They track that. They give us pie charts and percentages, and that is just an effective way visually to see how well each floor is compliant with that goal. So why communication again? Communication is the process that people use to exchange information in which they simultaneously send and receive messages, both verbally and non-verbally. So again, it is a combination of how we say and what we do, verbally, non-verbally. So non-verbal is body language, gestures, pitch of your voice, and your tone. Written communication, if you're discharging your patients, do they need Spanish? Do they need German? Also with English, are they hearing impaired? Do they need a certain type of written communication? Visual communication, if you're discharging a patient that's newly diagnosed with diabetes and we're sending them home on insulin, it's probably a good idea to send them home with pictures of where to inject, pictures of how to draw up syringes or dial up those needles. We had to pick two concept derivations. One that I chose was sensory perception. I think that's a great one to correlate with communication because there again, it's not just what we say, it's how we say it and what we do. So the definition is the concise process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting data from the senses into meaningful information. Perception is influenced by the intensity, size, change, or representation of stimuli, as well as our past experiences, knowledge, and attitudes. The second derivation that I chose that I feel closely correlates with communication is development. Your communication is always developing, it's evolving. The definition is an orderly pattern of changes in structure, thoughts, feelings, or behaviors resulting from maturation, experiences, and learning. Development is a dynamic and continuous process as one proceeds through life, characterized by a series of ascents, plateaus, and declines. Let's go back real fast. So I also want to state that I chose Hildegard Poplaw's interpersonal relationships as my theory, and these two derivations, development and sensory perception, correlate with that theory as well. The model this week that I chose for communication that is outside of the nursing realm is the helical model of communication. It was formed in 1967. In this perspective, all activities are taken into account that take place in a person's life from day one to a specific moment in time. These activities influence the communication process and build a person's communication sphere. The helical model of communication accumulates and visualizes these activities and shows the influence of activities from our past. So I have a little model here that kind of can help you understand. So the starting point, the very point at the bottom of the triangle is day one. You could also correlate this to your, nursing profession, the day you started. And you just grow upon that. It develops, it turns into a process that you communicate, and it just ever evolves, which is very abstract, which also my theory, or my model, Hildegard Poplaw's theory, was very abstract as well. The model states that communication is considered a dynamic process and progresses with time or age as more experiences are gained and one's vocabulary increases. The helix grows steadily and slowly moves upward and leaves the lower behavioral levels behind. According to the helical model of communication, communication is a continuous and normally non-repetitive process. It continues to expand, and every activity influences the evolution of communication. So I feel that this is directed more towards biology, a biological theory. So this is not a nursing theory. However, communication can be very broad, used in any profession, but I feel that when using evolution, I think that it would be geared more to biology. Here's another visual. Communication is a process, it's ever winding, strongly highlights the evolutionary aspect of communication. Like I said, it's abstract, focuses on evolution. Past experiences affect the way in which communication is formed in the future. And it states that the internal self, communication is constantly developing. Here are my references. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.